Is there a reason you're staring at me? Every book has its merits, if you look at it the right way. Have you read The Dance and Fire by chance? A wonderful series of books that leaves me very conflicted. That is, I want to like it, but it is not easy. I can tell you a bit about it if you'd like. Alright, which book would you like to hear about? There are 7 in total. Yes, of course. We should start at the beginning. The book follows a man by the name of Decimus Scotti as he attempts to travel from Cyrodiil to the heart of Valenwood. A difficult journey in the best of times, made much more so by the fact that he was attempting it during the 5-year war between the Bosmer and Kajiit. A bloody affair in which there were decidedly no winners. Decimus's goal was to establish a trade contract with the Bosmer, repairs and the like. Scotti had received a letter from an old rival trader named Juris, telling him Valenwood would make him rich, and so he set off. No sooner did his caravan cross into the outskirts of Valenwood, though, than it was set upon by Kajiiti raiders. They were merciless. Of course, it would be a very short story otherwise, but all of his supplies, his gold, and many of his comrades were gone. This was just a portent of things to come. But that will have to wait for another day, and another book. Yes, of course. Let's see. At the end of Book 1, Decimus Scotti's caravan had been robbed by Kajiiti raiders, leaving him with nary a septim. But as luck would have it, a Bosmer patrol found them shortly thereafter, and escorted them to the walking city of Falinesti, a gigantic tree, yes? Scotty's note from Juris said he would be waiting for him there, and so Scotty set out to find him. However, along the way he got sidetracked, yes? Ended up drunk and dancing in a pub in one of the upper bowels of the city. Passed out at some point, and when he awoke, he was pinned to the ground by a blood-sucking horvor tick, ready to drain the life out of him. Luckily, the Bosmer are used to these dangers. A passing guard patrol shot the tick full of arrows, and Scotty was saved, drenched in tick blood, but saved. Still, he had to find Juris. But that will have to wait for another day, and another book. Alright, so Decimus Scotti had just been saved by the Bosmer from deadly horvor ticks, and he needed to find his comrade Juris in Falinesti. Unfortunately, as the elves who saved him told him, Juris had left for the village of Ethay down the river, 2 days' journey by boat. Scotty rented a boat at the base of Falinesti, owned by a Bosmer pirate turned merchant, and the two made their way down the river. However, when they reached Ethay, it was completely ablaze, set aflame by the barbarous Kajiit and their flaming arrows. The Kajiit turned their arrows on the boat, and quickly it too was on fire. Scotty and the boatsman jumped into the river and swam downstream. Patience! Of course he did not drown. The story would be much too short if he did. The boatsman, on the other hand, was not so lucky. As Scotty floated downstream, he spotted the Kajiit watching him from the banks. If he came ashore, surely he would be killed and eaten. He floated past another burning village, Grenos, and eventually the Kajiit disappeared into the forest. Scotty came ashore near a refugee camp. Haggard Bosmer, displaced by the fires, sat around the campfire, eating the meat of a drowned Sench tiger. Sugary, the author says. I wouldn't know. Scotty was defeated. What would his next step be? What became of Juris? Was he dead? All he knew for sure was that he regretted this trip immensely. Little did Scotty know, his problems were only just beginning. But that will have to wait for another day, and another book. Book 4 then. So, Scotty had just wandered into a camp of Bosmer refugees, fleeing from the Kajiit who had burned their villages down, yes? He joined the refugees as they traveled to a sacred village called Vindisi, but was told he could not enter its temple with them. Too sacred, yes? Instead, Scotty joined a few other non-Bosmer refugees around a campfire, one of whom was a trader in competition for the Valenwood contract. Before long, they heard something around them in the jungle. Scotty and the trader took to the trees to hide, just in time, as it were. The Kajiit had snuck into the village. Scotty and his comrade attempted to escape, but his comrade fell from the tree, breaking his neck. This alerted the Kajiit, but as they were about to attack, a wail from the elves in the temple unleashed a wave of horrid, otherworldly creatures. The Wild Hunt, ravenous, tentacled things with an insatiable hunger for flesh. Everyone in the camp was devoured, Kajiit, elf, and human alike. No, of course not. That would not make for a good end to the story now, would it? He was hidden in the trees and watched as these atrocities unfolded. What few Kajiit managed to escape set off a trap they had rigged, surrounding Vindisi with boulders and preventing the Wild Hunt from escaping. Unrelenting, the Wild Hunt turned their fangs on each other. Before long, quiet descended on the forest again, and Scotty was alone. But that will have to wait for another day, and another book. Yes, alright. Scotty has seen the Wild Hunt unleashed on the unprepared Kajiit, and in its wake he is alone again in the forest. And of course, his luck being what it is, a massive thunderstorm descends on him as well, so heavy that he gets caught in a mudslide and thrown back into the river. Getting out, Scotty spies a Bosmer ship sailing by. They pick him up, and he sails downstream with them to Sylvanar. This is the heart of Valenwood, Sylvanar. It is where the Bosmer's leader resides, and it is he with whom Scotty must speak to secure his contract. A full week's voyage, and at last Scotty arrives. And after everything he has been through, the death, fire, voracious demons, murderous Kajiit, Scotty heads straight for the finest inn in the city. He's earned it. And who do you think he finds at the inn, stuffing his face with a leg of meat? Jarls, the very man who summoned him into this nightmare of a journey, sitting there like everything is business as usual. But that will have to wait for another day, and another book. Book 6. The exciting part of the adventure is over now that Scotty has made it into Sylvanar and found his comrade Jarls. The two discuss business, Scotty slipping quite readily back into his role as a trader. How shall we secure this contract with the Sylvanar, yes? Luckily for Scotty, when he and Jarls attempt to visit the Sylvanar the next day, Scotty is the only one allowed in to see him. Through some surprisingly non-extravagant dialogues, Scotty secures the contract and arranges for travel back to Cyrodiil the next morning. Jarls is stunned, having been present in Sylvanar for weeks without being admitted entrance to speak with the Sylvanar. Scotty, on the other hand, can't get past how short the Sylvanar is. All that remains now is for him to return to Cyrodiil and finalize the deal. But that will have to wait for another day, and another book. The final book. Scotty has gotten the Sylvanar to agree to the contract to rebuild Valenwood in the wake of the Bosmer's war with the Kajiit. All that remains is to return to Cyrodiil and get the trading company to pick up the contract and send supplies. He leaves the next morning. Jarls stays behind as the Imperial representative, claiming to have been appointed to the position of Undrape by the Sylvanar. Back in Cyrodiil, a bidding war occurs between two trading companies, Atreus and Vanek. Much time passes with no aid sent to the Bosmer. Scotty, for his part, seems happy just to be back in civilized society. But in the meantime, the Bosmer lose much ground in their war. Eventually, Vanek wins the bid, and a grand banquet is held to celebrate the contract. Scotty notices a familiar scent at the banquet. A cut of meat sent from the Sylvanar himself that the guests are fawning over. Delectable, marbled to perfection. What did you say it's called? Unthrapa. Scotty, making a horrible realization, vomits uncontrollably, and that is how the saga ends. Unthrapa. You know the Green Pact, yes? Accord the Bosmer have with nature forbids them from eating plants. Well, there are other tenets. In many cases, when they make pacts with other groups, they keep prisoners as assurances that the pact will be honored. And if the pact is not honored timely, the prisoner is killed, butchered, and cooked, served as Unthrapa. Or, as Decimus Scotty's comrade Juris referred to it, Undrape. Kind of spoils the shock if I have to explain it, but still, stands the fur on end. Well, it is undeniably well written. I cannot argue that point. However, its portrayal of Kajiit is horrendous. Bloodthirsty savages. Unreasoning, feral beasts out to slaughter and incinerate everyone and everything in their path. No nuance. Certainly war is an ugly business. But the characterization of the Kajiiti people was awful. Other than that, little things. The thought of eating a Sench tiger? Do you know? Sench have all the intellect of any other Kajiit. Speaking of eating them is as though you speak of eating another person. Monstrous. There is also a point where Scotty pulls a rather heartless move on a Kajiit he could have helped escape the Wild Hunt. The Kajiit trusted him, and he betrayed the Kajiit and let him be torn apart and eaten. Again, monstrous. But alas, it is fiction, and so I must take it with a grain of sugar. Just a story. At worst, merely reflective of the author's own prejudices. I can see past it and still enjoy it.